I don't think it's going to land the Democrats there at all. I think you're going to see some tough lines taken. But let's go to Biden specifically. Joe Biden, I think Joe Biden's got to prove to the American people two things. Number one, he's got to prove first he's not compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. In 2013, and President Trump, on last night on Fox, on Steve Hilton's show, asked for this. It's picked up in the New York Times today. He's now calling for this off of Peter Schweizer's investigation. Schweizer's the same team of this organization I used to oversee years ago that did Clinton Cash, that drilled down on the corruption of the Clinton apparatus. They did the same thing on Joe Biden. And what they found out in 2013, his son, Hunter, who was totally unqualified, went on a trip with him to China, and then afterwards stuck around in the Bank of China, which, unlike any other central bank in the G20, reports is not independent, like the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England. It reports to the government. They gave this kid $1 billion and then upped it to $1.5 billion. Somebody totally unqualified to run a private equity or venture capital fund or a hedge fund. Gave him $1.5 billion to invest. And it turns out he's invested some of that, I believe, in surveillance companies, some of these companies that oppress the Chinese people, the hardworking Chinese people that have been enslaved by the Chinese Communist Party. Joe Biden is hiding from this. He will not come forward. President Trump called him out last night personally on the Steve Hilton show. I think it's very important. We have to understand that Joe Biden and his family have not been compromised. This is why this thing has gone on for so long. The Chinese are great at influence peddling. And we have to understand if Joe Biden's skirts are clean on this. He's got to come forward. We got to know how much wealth his family's created off of this. We have to know why he took $1.5 billion from an oppressive government and what they did with it. And number two is he said the other day, well, they're not even a strategic competitor. Come on, man. He's got to convince the American people he's serious about this.
Well,
this is the greatest geostrategic enemy we've ever had. This is an existential threat to the United States of America, and now everybody understands that. People, I just came back from Berlin and in Paris. People in Europe understand it. This is not a game. This is as deadly serious as it gets, and Joe Biden's blown it off. And people in those upper Midwest states, middle-class Joe, they're going to understand that Joe Biden looked the other way while all the jobs got shipped to China. So I think that as he gets really forced into the Democratic primary, he's going to get eaten up on China. And I think you start to see some people on the Democratic Party go after him. Now, I will say something about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders had every opportunity in 2016 with all the information out there on Clinton Cash, the book, the movie, the research site. He never went after Hillary Clinton. I kept saying Bernie Sanders had a pillow fight. It was Donald Trump that took it to her. When I got on the campaign, we went after Hillary Clinton every day on her corruption and her incompetence. And Bernie Sanders, all the supporters that were so disappointed in 2016, they ought to get on Bernie Sanders every day and ask, why is Bernie Sanders not on Joe Biden's being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party?